Hello and welcome to Colour Me Crazy. So today we'll be doing Does It Cartoon, and I have decided to try and draw Midoriya Izuku from Boku no Hero Academia, or My Hero Academia, in the style of Teen Titans. I thought he'd be a good fit for this style. So first of all, what I'm doing is I have got some reference images of DEKU and I'm copying his poses, seeing as these poses are Trade DEKU. And if you can, where you can, cheat as much as possible. It will save you time, energy, money, patience, the whole shebang. So long as you're just using like the base proportions or outlines. You can even use things like dolls for reference, Sims, all sorts. They're really handy for that sort of thing. So I've decided to do him in his hero costume, 3/4 of his head and a front view of his uniform. The reason I've decided to do this is that if this was a character that was getting made for animation, which Teen Titans, the 2003 version is. So I decided to do this in the form of a front view in his hero costume, a front view in his uniform, and a 3/4 head. So this is kind of like a kind of more rubbishy, what you would call model sheet. So for every outfit that a character wears, there's normally a front and a back view that the animators can use as reference. So if you have got something like DEKU, he's a main character, and you need to make sure that he's on model in every drawing. And if you're doing something like animation, it can be kind of hard to do. You've got quality checkers, directors, all sorts. So the reason I'm talking about going on model is that actually the reference image that the anime uses themselves, one of the headshots, I feel doesn't actually look very on model for DEKU. So he looks kind of angry, not like himself, and he looks more like the original drawing that Horikoshi did. So in this bit here, you can see that his face is slimmer than it normally is, and his eyes don't really look like himself. So this is Yamamoto, which was DEKU's original design. The whole point that I'm talking about this is that character designs change constantly, and if you have got hundreds and hundreds of people drawing the same character, nobody really draws the exact same. So you've got to have the your supervisors and your art directors checking your work. So these model sheets are incredibly important. So what would happen is you would get a shot, and say it is DEKU sitting down. If DEKU's face is too long, his eyes are too wide, all sorts, it just won't look right. We'll get a note back of what you have drawn with all these markings all over it saying their face is too wide, their eyes are too skinny, you've not got this in the right place, and it's just like all these scribbled notes all over your drawings, and then you have to fix it. That's quality control. So you can see from the sketch that I've done to the sketch in between, what happened here is that I was drawing on my Huion, I think it's H420, and it was doing my head in. So I thought I would try and install my old UG2150, and thank God it worked, because the Huion was driving me up the wall. I mean, it's fine for like quick sketches, but not for detailed work. It just wasn't picking up what I was telling it to do at all. It's just really hard going. Plugged in my UG, and I've actually got it sat on my lap just now. Thank God my baby is still working. I've had it for a few years now, but it's a bit temperamental at times. So I've done the head, and you can see from the head I've followed along. I've used Beast Boy as a reference because I felt like they were the same sort of body type. Now Beast Boy's head's wider, but if you look in some of the shots that Beast Boy has got from side views in reference images, his face is actually like smaller. And I also looked at Robin and I looked at Starfire, so I kind of used Beast Boy more for the body type. In Teen Titans, they all have very sharp, clean lines, sloping shoulders, thin, jaggy appendages, big feet, big hands, and a big head. I felt like I've kept rather well in that. I wasn't sure how it would translate that DEKU's got his arms pinned right to his side, because in the reference image for Beast Boy, it's a lot more, he's chilled out more. So I was struggling a little bit with drawing his head at that size. One trick that you can do is you can draw things to like a bigger scale and then scale it down, because Photoshop is just wizardry for cheating. It is the most magic thing ever that has ever happened to drawing, and you should embrace it wholeheartedly. I drew the hair like 60 different bleeding times. You can see, looking at DEKU's reference image next to the DEKU that I've drawn, is I've actually gone in much closer to the scalp for his hairline. In the Teen Titans cartoon, none of the characters have especially big hair except for a few exceptions, but they have like ridiculously long manes, and we all know that our little broccoli boy has got quite big hair. But at the same time, to make it look more Teen Titans, I decided to bring it closer to his skull, because when you look at Deku, his hair doesn't actually look that massive in comparison. Like, it doesn't feel off, it doesn't feel like, you know, he's got like another head that's stuck on top of him that's just hair. What you can see me doing here is I'm drawing the shoes from the hero pose, because I felt like the underdrawing was better on that, and then all I'm doing is I'm moving it across to transform it to fit onto the uniform layer rather than draw the shoes out twice. Now what I'm doing is I'm just fixing hands. I hate hands. I'm an art teacher in training, and I have an animation degree, and I still cannot draw hands properly, and I practice them a lot. Like, I normally draw hands as a warm-up exercise because I just feel like I'm so bad at them. And the reason I've got this little like crying ghosty here is that I realised that I hadn't been recording when I came back from doing something else to keep drawing. I also hate the way that I did this face. It's just like, it looks so off, so awkward, and you've got these little pinches of cheeks, so when you smile really wide, your eye shrinks in size because of the muscular orientation of your face, so your cheeks are attached to your eye sockets. So if you smile really wide, it narrows your eyes a bit, so that's what I tried doing. But I just felt like it was a bit off and it didn't really work, so I tried looking up pictures of the characters smiling. I tried looking up Robin because I felt like he'd be a good shout, except I couldn't really find any pictures of Robin smiling, but I did manage to find a picture of Starfire smile. So I end up importing that in at some point. What you can see now is me taking a swatch, so if you can save time, save time. So if I was working in an animation on Teen Titans with Deku as a character, you would have one of these and it would have all these nice little squares and it would label which one for each. Now the shading that they use in Teen Titans is a lot softer than the shading that is used in My Hero. So what I did is I did actually take the shades from Deku's original picture, and I do colour with them and use them, but what I then did was I changed the opacity to multiply and softened it to a look that's more close to what you can see in Beast Boy's look, because you can see there's actually minimal shading possible. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that Teen Titans was made in Adobe Flash. Adobe Flash is a good program, but it's not that great. It can be kind of hard and clunky to use, and especially at the time. So Teen Titans was released in 2003 and it was top of the range animation for the time, and you just need to be really clear and cut down on any unnecessary lines. With their shading, they just do block shading. It's like a clear line, you don't really get reflections, bounce lights, all that kind of thing, all that kind of joy. So I've actually made a mistake here where I've shaded the eye socket underneath. It looks more like bags than shading. It doesn't look great, so I get rid of it at some point later. And I'm so glad I did, because looking at it now, it's just like giving me the heebies. But I feel like the face could maybe be a bit chubbier just looking at it. I'm not 100% happy with it. I prefer the face that's on the uniform, but I don't actually like I don't like looking at him that way, because you know that way you've like spent so much time looking at something and you just feel like, oh, what have I done? What have I done? You're just, no, you're not happy anymore. I was thinking of Deku's like wonderful t-shirts that say t-shirt and all these kind of things. I was getting so mad because I kept having to close the program. My colour dropper tool sometimes freaks out and I need to restart Photoshop and it does my head in. You can just see me like having like little mental breakdowns with the eyedropper fill tool colour. I actually don't really use fill tool at all, so I'm really jealous of like people like Lavender Town that just got it all figured out. I also realised that I had picked the colour of the background, so you should never really work on white. You should always work on a slightly coloured background, so mine, I was using a slightly off-white, but because that was so close to the jacket, you still couldn't see. What I ended up doing was I changed the background to red, and I'll prove why it's good to work on a coloured background. You don't want something too dark, because then it can affect the colours that you're seeing, but because I had a pre-picked colour palette I wasn't worried about that. But you can see in this bit that I have left gaps that on the lighter background you couldn't see. So imagine you'd been spending hours and hours and hours working on this lovely drawing on a blank white background, and then you go to put it onto like a t-shirt design or something and you realise it's absolutely chock-a-block full of holes. You would scream. I would scream. We would all scream. So yeah, that's why it's such a good idea to work on a darker background. Definitely not as saturated as the background that I've got going on this, but that's because I have a pre-picked colour palette, so I am not worried about the background colour affecting the way that I'm looking at it. And I realised that I'd accidentally dropped the colour for his shirt, for his blazer. So I fixed the original colour, but the shading colour I just darkened on the multiply. I also added in like these little arrow knee things, because it seems like in Teen Titans to indicate knees they use like these arrows, so I added them on to the trousers even though you probably wouldn't see them. I had such bother with these trousers because Deku just doesn't seem to understand how trousers work, and because of that he's got these like really baggy trousers tucked into these big boots. Oh, this is where I get in that picture. So I was getting so annoyed, so I actually copied the mouth from Starfire to try and fix the problem. This is where I'm colouring in his hero uniform. I really stripped it bare, so it's a lot more detailed in the My Hero Academia one. And you'll see, if you actually pay close attention to the animation, you can normally see where juniors have worked on the animation rather than the seniors, and when they're like low on time, low on budget, because all of a sudden these beautiful characters with these really detailed costumes become like these square blob people. It's actually so funny. Oh, I realised I was losing my marbles at this point. I was getting so annoyed, so I accidentally coloured on top of my base colour, and then I did it again. I coloured on top of my base colour for the shade twice in a row, and I was ready to scream, so I kept triple checking and triple checking which layer I had selected. It was such a bloody nightmare. So this is the finished product. I'm not 100% happy with it, but I feel like I did a fairly good job. Felt like I have achieved my goal, but yeah. So I feel like Midoriya would be a good Teen Titan. How about you? What do you think? Like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what you think I could do next for Does It Cartoon. Thank you! Thank you for watching. This was Color Me Crazy. Bye!